should I stop eating anything coming out of a colorful bag?
Yes. Simple answer, yes. But I will have coffee maybe 2 to 3 times a year.
A year?
A year.
This is my third cup today.
Their mind and their body has become so optimized. They've gone into a zone that they are now doing superhuman performance. Muscles don't just deteriorate. Muscles can deteriorate in their 20s if they're not used.
So there's no constant state for a muscle.
No, there isn't.
It's growth or degeneration.
That's right. There's a lot that's happening in your mouth, the enzymes and all of that. But if you're drinking the juice, it's a pure sugar shock. Do you not want to be the wolf and the lion or the tiger? Would you rather be a sheep?
What if no one wants to hang out with the wolf?
You gotta find the wolf back.
That's the key.
The strongest, most powerful animal, pound for pound, is a gorilla. You don't see lions attacking a gorilla.
Asad Rezzvi, how are you today?
Fantastic. Excellent. Happy to be here.
I'm so happy that Naeem, who was here on the podcast a few, I want to say months ago, connected us. And he told me that you are doing something with NAD and performance and optimization. But before I get to how to be the optimal performing human being, I want to start with what your history is and why you've gotten into this subject of living the optimal, high-performing life.
All right, fantastic. So my story goes back to actually even before I was 5 years old. But let's say I was 7 years old and I got really, really sick. I had to be taken out of school. And there was this one night when it was so difficult for me to breathe. By around midnight, I had turned blue. So my parents rushed me to the hospital. By the time I got to the hospital, I was clinically gone. So the doctors then had to do all that they did. It was a whole lot of commotion, and then they brought me back to life. From that day, for the next 6 years, I was in and out of hospitals, doctors, needles, medicines, all of that stuff, and barely had a normal life. Very, very sick child. So by the time I was in my mid-teens, I really had this drive to become healthy. And that manifested in me trying to become an athlete. And I did, I competed, but I never really was able to fulfill my potential because my organ function was very, very weak. So by the time I got to the US, by the time I got to Berkeley, I started doing a lot of research. I was on this quest. I had this mission that, well, you know, I'm in California. California is this place where people have all this health consciousness and everything. So I just started reading magazines and books and everything. But I'll tell you one thing. The area of health and nutrition when it comes to actual performance is rife. It is overflowing with misinformation, half-truths, and sometimes even outright lies, okay? Because there's a lot of advertising dollars that go into this stuff. Okay? So the first thing that I did was pick up bodybuilding magazines. All right. And they push a lot of stuff which is actually very unhealthy for the body. So I went down that route, but after a few months, I found out that this is not making me healthy. This is actually slowing me down. So to cut a long story short, over the next 7 to 10 years, I spent close to around $100,000 on my own self, going to the best doctors, going to the best nutritionists, best hospitals. I experimented on myself, had tubes put in the top and the bottom, cameras going in, doing all kinds of experiments, research, everything. 80% of it was wasted, failure. But the best thing that happened that came out of that was I found out what does not work. Real world experience on my own self. This was not something I read on the net or on a book or in a magazine. This was stuff I tried out on myself. So I had conviction. And conviction is really powerful when you're making decisions on what to do and what not to do. Some of the things that worked led me down a path. And it was when I met Tony Robbins. This is an extraordinary human being. By any stretch, he is an extraordinary human being.
And you met him after you had conducted all these tests and all of
Yes. and yeah, towards the tail end.
Towards the tail end. And you were a senior trainer for Tony Robbins for 10 to 15 years, I think.
Yes, I was with him for approximately between 10 and 15 years. I started out because I just wanted to experience the best of myself and the best of life.
Right.
And the thing about me always has been, since I was in my 20s till today, when I get into something, I become obsessed with it.
Right.
So I got into the Tony Robbins thing and I was into it day and night. It's like, I am going to get this thing so deep into me so that my DNA is going to be dancing. All right, my DNA is going to be doing this stuff. And so one of the first things that I did was focus on my health, my physical performance, my nutrition. I started to optimize that. And Tony is a guy who spent a lot of time, money, and resources decoding this thing for himself. So instead of reinventing the wheel, I just took everything that he had and started doing it. And that also required a lot of iteration and everything, but I finally was able to figure out what actually works in terms of testing it with blood tests, in terms of testing it with actual organ function, liver function tests. And I'm not talking about your average medical liver function tests. I'm talking about there are specialized liver function tests that really measure liver performance.
Which is not captured in an LFT.
No, it's not. So the thing is this, what most people don't understand about the medical industry is it is not designed for optimum performance. It is designed to manage sickness.
So manage survival.
Yeah.
So I want to actually, so if it's designed to manage survival versus we're trying to optimize performance.
Exactly.
What percentage of the global population is really in a position to optimize their performance versus managing their survival? Isn't it a much smaller industry of people trying to optimize performance versus
Absolutely
the bulk of the piece? So then that's why the industry is that way.
It is. But I would say this is a chicken and egg argument. Okay. Because if you sort of rewind, go back a couple of 100 years, we didn't have the medical industry. We didn't have any such thing. Okay. It was basically relegated to the religious realm. You would go to certain people who were like religious sort of, I wouldn't say doctors, but sort of religious herbalists or religious physicians, and they would guide you. Okay? But for the most part, we lived very strong, healthy lives. Your average man in his 50s and 60s had a testosterone level that was quadruple that of what our 30-year-olds have today.
You're kidding. I didn't know that.
Yes. Our 30-year-olds today have 25% of the testosterone level that your average 50 to 60-year-old had maybe about 200 years ago or even 100 years ago.
Because they're inactive lifestyles.
Inactive lifestyle, poor nutrition, poor psychology. It's substandard, all of it. Okay. So the point I'm making over here is we don't need rocket science to optimize our physical and our psychological performance. There's a lot of common sense out there, but common sense is not very common these days.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
So let's say I want to optimize my. This is a subject that is actually of interest to me, and I read a lot about it, and I test like you. I didn't do a lot of things inside my body, but I like to test with different things.
Yeah.
For me, I've broken this space up, and there's a physical, and then there is a mental, right? I think that if you can solve for both, you can move towards optimization.
Absolutely.
Within physical, the three areas that I consider important would be, let's say, nutrition. That's you start with that.
Absolutely.
I'd say exercise. And rest, which you termed as recovery. I think recovery is probably a better word for that.
Yes.
And recovery is not sleep.
Yes, it's not only sleep.
It's not only sleep, right? So if we were to start with physical, I want to be at my optimum level based on my biological disposition. What God has given me, I want to take this and operate at 99%.
Absolutely.
If I was to start with the physical, what's the kind of program I need to build? What is the kind of life I need to follow?
Okay. So first of all, you need to ace nutrition.
I start with nutrition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not with like exercise or anything else.
No.
Why is that?
You need the nutrients for your body to actually be able to exercise at its optimum level. If you're not putting the fuel into your car, car's not going to go from A to B.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right.
So you got to put the right fuel in. You got to get your cells, every cell in your body lit up with energy, with pure, sheer energy. Okay. Now, the thing is this. There's a lot of confusion out there when it comes to nutrition. Why? Because the nutrition industry has sort of been hijacked by the bodybuilding industry. And this happened, I don't think there was some conspiracy behind this, but it happened by default. Why? Because the bodybuilding industry blew up with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 80s. And that sort of then hijacked everything that came in the way of nutrition. Okay. So most people are focused on their macros. How much protein should I get? How much carbs? And then all these fat diets came in. Okay. Like keto, you got to eliminate carbs. Carbs are bad and everything. Look, we can go down this rabbit hole. It is going to take you too far. Okay. But let's stick with the basics. There's nothing else that can do that.
And what good is the oxygenation?
The higher your oxygenation level is in your blood, the more energy you have. And that's the less disease potential you have.
And you measure that through a VO2 max?
You can do that through a VO2 max, but there's simple oxygenation meters also that you can measure that, right? But the thing is this, if somebody's having a problem with their health, the first thing you start with is the fresh, raw veggies. It heals, it cleans, it regenerates, it rebuilds.
So you're saying you start with nutrition, move towards green leafy vegetables. That has to be a staple of your diet.
Absolutely.
What about the whole notion of these high fat, meat, protein diets? All of you started with veggies, but everyone else says protein is the way to go. Build your plate based on 1 gram of protein per gram of or per pound of body weight.
Yeah. Right? So, all right.
So this is then counter.
It is. Let's stick with the common basics.
Right.
Okay. What are the strongest animals on the planet?
You're going to tell me they eat plants and grass.
Just shortcut to the facts, man. The strongest, most powerful animal, pound for pound, is a gorilla.
Yeah. Not a cheetah?
Cheetah runs fast, but it's lean and small. A very strong animal is a tiger or a lion, but they are not the strongest. Okay, you don't see lions attacking a gorilla. A gorilla is so dense, his muscles are so dense, it cannot swim. It's like a rock, it sinks. Okay, and it's so strong, it can take the thigh bone of an elephant and snap it like a twig. That's how strong it is. Okay, it's an average male gorilla has a strength of approximately 20 bodybuilders put together.
You're kidding.
Yeah. That's how strong it is. Okay. And that's the only thing it's chomping on all day long is greens.
It doesn't take whey protein shakes.
Last time I checked,
loaded with creatine.
Last time I checked, no.
That's true, actually. You're right. Gorillas actually are all herbivores.
So are elephants. So are giraffes. So are horses. So are impalas. Impalas outrun cheetahs. Okay. And their legs are like stick thin.
So wait a second. So then I'm challenging a lot of the Instagram / bodybuilding magazines / even a lot of doctors.
Yeah.
Talk about the carnivore diet, and they talk about, let's say, replacing all of that and just eating meat. And what they found was that when you eat meat and fats and you cut a lot of the carbs out, you enter a state of ketosis to fuel your body because you're using your stored fats to turn into ketones and so on. The mental sharpness, acuity, alertness, feeling amazing, all of that stuff happens.
Yeah.
Which no one really says that when they talk about eating leafy greens all day long. Why is there a contradiction there?
Okay. First things first, I have a huge amount of respect for the medical industry and doctors. They're very hardworking people. But wherever there's a lot of money and influence, there will be corruption. It's a simple fact of how the world works.
Can't the vegetable guys be corrupt and pay more than the meat guys? Like, why must the meat guys be more corrupt?
Well, we're starting with the medical industry. What I just want to stick with is simple facts and common sense.
Right.
Okay? So that people listening to this, it will be irrefutable for them. You can't refute common sense and facts.
Right.
Okay. Doctors do not study nutrition in medical school. This is something that most people don't know. Doctors don't know nutrition. Doctors understand pathology. They understand sickness. Doctors don't know what peak performance is. You go to your best doctor at Aga Khan today or anywhere in Pakistan and ask him, okay, look, I'm healthy. I want to become healthier. He's going to stare you in the face and tell you to get out of his office or stop wasting his time. Because that's not what he's there for. He's there to help sick people manage their sickness. Okay, so when we come to nutrition and health and outstanding performance, who do you go to? There is no single source. There's a lot of commercial sources, and commercial sources have their own interest. Now, the thing is this, I'm not selling veggies. I've gone through a journey where I went from being a sick, almost dying child to becoming a competitive athlete in kickboxing and multiple other sports and doing really well. Okay. And even today, alhamdulillah, all glory to God, I'm doing really well. And the reason is because I stick to the basics that work. Number one, you got to have fresh, raw veggies.
And you were on a veggie diet for a year also.
I did that. Yeah, I do crazy things like that.
For 1 year, you only ate veggies.
Yeah, and I do, every year, I'll do at least 1 month of pure, fresh, raw veggies and absolutely nothing else.
What happens to your body when you do that?
Your body aging reverses. Literally, age reversal kicks in. Your cells regenerate. You produce natural stem cells in your body. A lot of replenishment happens. Your skin clears up. Your eyes get sharper. Your stamina, your organ function improves. Everything. And these things you can literally test in a blood test before and after.
And you do that?
Absolutely. I do that. I've been doing it for years. I've been doing it for 3 decades. Okay? I measure my testosterone levels. But I suppose I would be probably your Pakistani version of Brian Johnson. Okay. I don't spend a couple of $1 million. I don't have that. Maybe I will at some point in time. But I don't do that. But I do a lot of crazy things that most average people won't do. But that's because I'm extraordinarily committed to living life at an outstanding level. Okay. But we get into that. So
veggies you're sold on.
Yeah, you start with veggies. That's not what you do. The only thing that you do.
So what else do I add into this?
Sparingly, fruits. So for example,
define sparingly.
Let's say right now we have the season of quinoa.
Right.
So you have maybe 1 or 2 quinoa a day, max. That's it. Don't go beyond that. Mango season, have 1 or 2 mangoes a day, max.
Oh, wait, so you're saying no more than 1 or 2 pieces of fruit a day?
That's right. Why? Because sugar turns into lactic acid into your body.
The Isha prayer, the Maghrib prayer, basically is a trigger for your body to say, hey, it's time to slow down.
Exactly.
And then the Isha prayer, and the reason, and again, I'm just kind of hypothesizing, the reason the Isha prayer then is the longest is because it is giving you a chance to really turn your mind down.
Exactly. Now, let me give you a fact. If you were to be asleep, let's say you go to bed at 10 o'clock and you are fast asleep by 11. 11 to 7, 8 hours of sleep is a multiple 5x, 10x better quality of sleep than sleeping from midnight to 8 a.m.
That 1 hour?
1 hour difference.
Really?
Because of your circadian rhythm. So if you go to bed, let's say 9 p.m., okay, and wake up 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., that's a quantum better than going to bed at 1 a.m. and doing the same number of hours of sleep, waking up at 9 a.m.
So you're literally saying that our 1400 plus year old religion,
absolutely,
when it says Isha and then it says Fajr, is actually giving you the perfect circadian rhythm.
Again, let me just prove that with biology. At sunrise, just before sunrise, is when your testosterone peaks. So if you were to be up before sunrise, having said your Fajr ki namaz, okay, go and hit the gym or do whatever physical exercise, you take advantage of that peak in your testosterone to actually rejuvenate your body?
So I will tell you something. I was never a morning riser. I joined the marathon running crew, and they had this early morning run, 5:30, 6 on weekends.
Yeah.
Even on weekdays. And I was like, man, that's like just torture, right? I was never able to go to bed at 9 or 10.
Yeah.
I'd probably do 11, 11:30, and I was up at 5, 5:30.
Yeah.
It would still be dark
Yeah.
when I would go out, and we would watch the sunrise running. I cannot tell you because I didn't have any things hooked up or whatever, but the feeling and the sensation I felt in that time is a feeling I have not been able to create, replicate in any other part of my life.
There you go.
And all it required was me to be physically moving.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's right.
Like, it didn't require any money.
That's right.
It didn't require any person.
Exactly.
It just required me and movement.
Absolutely.
No sugar has created that. No form of pleasure-seeking activity has created that. Nothing. And I cannot believe that that exists. And most of us, including myself,
Yeah.
don't use it every day. It blows my mind.
Well, see, there you go. We've got a lot of free
But
resources.
then the problem is that if I create that lifestyle for myself,
Yeah.
I am an outsider to the community, because now the average community is not following this. You're telling me that if I live this life,
Yeah.
I am a lone wolf because I'm walking around with a bowl of vegetables, climbing stairs in my apartment building, waking up and going for a run at Fajr. I mean, they're like, this guy is crazy. Isse to baat hi nahi karni humne.
Buddy, Faizan, I'll tell you one thing. Life, you got to make choices. Either you want to fit in or you want to be extraordinary, but you can't do both. That's just a fact of life.
What's the point of being extraordinary if you can't fit in?
What is the point of fitting into sheep? Do you not want to be the wolf and the lion or the tiger? Would you rather be a sheep?
But what if no one wants to hang out with the wolf? It's a lone
Then
wolf.
find other wolves. You gotta find the wolf back.
That's the key.
Yeah.
That's
And today, we've got the advantage of the internet where you can actually find like-minded people all over the world, even right here.
So all I got to do is tap in and just search them.
That's right.
And you
Create a
think
wolf
that,
back, man.
You think there are enough wolves out there that people can actually attach themselves
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're few and far between, because wolves will always be few and far between. But remember one thing, it only takes one wolf to scare 1,000 sheep. And sheep go to slaughter. And they don't mind going to
to? Yeah,
slaughter.
I've never heard of a wolf being slaughtered.
Yeah, exactly. Wolves don't. Wolves are one of the most intelligence sensitive creatures on the
Why
planet.
wolves? Why is it like why do we use the example of a wolf and not a tiger or a lion or a gorilla, like you said, is the strongest?
Yeah.
What is it about the wolf that when we take human optimization, performance, or like peak, everyone wants to be the wolf?
Wolves have a quality of intelligence that almost no other animal does. They actually are extremely social animals, very, very sensitive. They take care of their families and they maximize their potential. They actually maximize their potential.
Wolves?
Wolves.
They're consciously maximizing
They
potential.
consciously maximize.
How are they doing that?
Well, I'll give you just a very, very simple example. Most places, it's the alpha male that leads the pack.
Yeah.
In a wolf pack, the alpha male is the one that travels behind the pack, because he has the sharpest senses and he's the one who's taking responsibility for the entire pack. So he protects the pack when it's moving.
So he's
from
like a
behind.
servant leader.
Exactly. Exactly.
He's leading from behind.
He's leading from behind. And you've got 3 strong wolves leading the pack from the front. So to protect it from the front. But the behind, the rear, is the one that's exposed. So that's where the alpha is. So contrary to what the internet is overflowing with, the alpha is not the one that goes out there, bashing people up and, being aggressive. No, his aggression shows up in being optimum. In being the absolute pinnacle role model of what you can do with yourself. That is alpha. Because that is something that people will respect whether they like you or not. If you have maximized your potential, if you have worked hard, if you are focused, if you are getting results, whether somebody likes you or not, agrees with you or disagrees with you,
you get their respect.
You get their respect.
And that's worth more than anything else.
Yeah. Because it's real.
Because look, I mean, and the reason I push on that is because we are community, we live in communities,
Absolutely.
right? We are social beings. It's difficult to live in isolation.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Right? So to live this life requires a pack.
Absolutely. It does.
And finding that pack, it's not in your everyday life.
No, it's not in your everyday life.
You really have to seek it out.
Absolutely, you do. And look, I have been a very strong believer in this thing. And that's why when I started becoming very conscious of my physical body and my mind and all of these things, long story short is I hounded my friends to up their game. Some did, most did not. Okay.
Are they still your friends?
They are my social friends. But my inner close circle of friends is people who align with my values, who I run with my pack. And I do have a pack. And I still add people to that pack, but those people curate themselves. If you can run with the pack, feel free to join. Would love to have you. But if you can't, well, then you can't.
Those are choices you made.
Yeah, you make choices because the thing is that you came onto this planet to give your gift, to be on a mission, to have a purpose, and that is to give something. Okay? It's not to fit in. Whoever in the history of this planet gave their gift by fitting in? No, it was the people who did not fit in. You know, like Steve Jobs famously said, a round peg in a square hole. Okay? That famous Apple ad, just think different. That's what we admire. When was the last time you admired somebody? Wow, man, look at that guy. He really fits in.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Look, this has been fascinating. I wanted to continue the discussion. I'm thinking we break this up into two parts and we do the second part as a second recording, because I think what we did was we covered the physical aspect. We covered the nutrition, we covered the exercise and the movement, and then we covered recovery. I want to go and record a second part with you.
Perfect.
And cover the mental part, the psychology of this, because I think that
perfect segue right
that perfectly is missed out, at least in our society.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So let's conclude this as part one.
Done.
And we will do a recording for part two.
So
does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you all for tuning in. This was part one of outstanding optimizing performance for you in your life. Check out part two in the next week. We are going to talk about the psychology of optimizing your performance, which is a whole different ball game. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.